Once upon a time, there was a man named Stephen who lived a solitary life. He never seemed to have many friends, preferring to keep to himself, until one day, a box appeared on his doorstep. The box was plain and had no markings, but when Stephen opened it, he found a note inside. The note was written in a cryptic language that he could not understand, but one line had a clear message. Your past has come back to haunt you. Curious, Stephen continued to dig through the box and found a broken-off toothbrush from his former roommate who had stolen from him, a necklace and locket, still with the broken chain from an ex-girlfriend who betrayed him, a torn shirt from a former friend who had spread lies about him, with blood around a jagged hole on one side. With each item, Stephen felt a cold sweat break out on his skin as the memories came flooding back. That night, Stephen heard strange noises coming from the shadows of his room. He felt a chill run down his spine. He tried to convince himself that it was just his imagination, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The next morning, he found a new item in the box. This time, it was a razor blade from an old boss who had fired him without cause. Stephen felt the urge to use the blade, but he didn't understand why. Days turned into weeks, and the box continued to appear on Stephen's doorstep with new items from old enemies. Stephen's life became a constant battle against the memories and the emotions the objects evoked. He became paranoid and anxious, always looking over his shoulder and jumping at the slightest sound. He began to see shadows moving in the corners of his vision and heard whispers in the dead of night. One night, Stephen woke up to find the box had reappeared on his bedside, with a note beside it showing items on a checklist, but with only some of them scratched through. He reached out to grab the note, but his hand passed right through it. He rubbed his eyes, thinking it was just a trick of the light, but when he opened them again, he found that the note had vanished. Instead, he heard a quiet voice in his head saying, "Your past will never let you go." Stephen felt a cold sweat break out on his skin as he realized this was not a physical box, but a manifestation of his own mind, tormenting him with the memories he had tried to suppress of past wrongs. The objects in the box were a manifestation of the pain and hurt he had caused, and they were now coming back to haunt him. He tried to run, but wherever he went, the box followed. He tried to hide, but the whispers grew louder and the shadows more sinister. In the end, Stephen couldn't escape the box. The objects and the voices in his head continued to torment him, and he became consumed by his past. He became reclusive, rarely leaving his house and never interacting with anyone. People who knew him noticed that he was changing, becoming distant and strange. One day, Stephen disappeared. No one knew where he went, and there was no trace of him. Some said they saw him walking into the woods, never to return. Others claimed they saw him walking towards the horizon with a blank expression on his face, as if he was being drawn away. No one knew for sure what happened to Stephen, but it was as if he'd vanished into thin air. Years went by and the box remained a mystery. People whispered about Stephen and the strange circumstances surrounding his disappearance. Some said he had been taken by the devil. Others claimed he was simply swallowed by the past. But no one knew for sure what happened to Stephen, and his disappearance remains a mystery to this day. The strange note and the objects from the box became a legend, a tale told to scare children and warn them of the dangers of the past. But Stephen was never seen or heard from again, and it was as if he had been swallowed by the shadows, never to be seen again.